Welcome to All or Something podcast, where I'll be celebrating all things entrepreneurial and talking about balancing work, life and tech. Hi everybody, welcome to episode 1 of All or Something, the podcast with me, Kat Rowley, from Empower Tech Academy. So today I'm going to be talking about essential tech for your online business. Now, before I start, let me just say that these are my thoughts and my opinions. You don't have to have the same opinions, and you don't have to have the same favourite tools. So this is just my suggestions, and if you're not sure where to start, it's a great starting point. But I'm not going to be upset with you if you don't have the same things that you use with me, and if you have better ideas. So that being said, let's crack on. So I'm not a huge fan of using lots of jargon words, but tech stack I love. Tech stack I feel is very descriptive. We know what we're talking about. It's the tech that you stack up to get your business running the best you can. So let's start at the most important, which is email. I'm sure if you're in business, you know how important it is to collect email addresses. That way you can directly message your customers. They're your customers, and they're not just people on social media that you need to try and catch their attention. You're now building up your know, like and trust factor if they're on your newsletter. Newsletter sending list. So the first thing I would say before you do anything else, it isn't a website that you need, but you do need a domain. So that's your address, like empowertech.academy. And that's, if you buy a domain, then you can get a matching email address. So my email address is cat@empowertech.academy. And then I can use that email address to verify for Google, to make sure that when I'm sending bulk emails, it's not going to be marked as spam. Basically, when you're then setting up any of these other tech accounts, or anything to do with your business, you can use this business email, and from the word go, you've got a professional email address, and you're out there looking professional from the word go, rather than using something like empowertech@google.com. So whilst Google products are amazing, I definitely recommend getting a business email straight away. Just for the simple fact that you need to build up an email list, and to verify, you need to have a email address that goes with your website. So the first thing I would recommend is getting that professional email. So you would have to get yourself a domain name, so that's your website name, the address, and then a matching email address. Now, lots of the companies that sell these, there's loads of different. There's Namecheap, 1&1, Reg, GoDaddy, and then all the companies like IONOS, 1&1, that do hosting also do these. So I really recommend choosing one where the hosting and email address are included with the package. So take time to check that. I know I couldn't quote you the amount, but for example, IONOS, 1&1, they have a starter offer where you get the first 6 months half price or something. It ends up being something like £3 a month. That's after you've paid for your domain. So your domain, sometimes you get it free as part of the package. But domains are usually about £15 if they're not a much sought after domain, and then you would pay maybe about £3 a month, a bit more than that after the starter period is finished, and that would mean that you've got that professional email address. So it is an investment, but one that I'm all for starting cheap. But this is one that I would recommend investing in, is getting that domain so that you can get your email address, so that you can start with that professional email address from the word go. So sorry that the first bit tech I recommended cost money. So apologies for that. My next favourite thing to use is Canva. Now, I personally have the Pro account because I'm in Canva basically every day. I'm always creating things in Canva, and it's much simpler for me to have the Pro version. I'm always using background remover and things like that, which are Pro features. So you can start in Canva for free. It's got a filter where you can just filter out the free things, or you can even then individually pay for images that you really, if there's an image that you really wanted to use that's a paid for image, you can pay for the license for the one download or whatever. So I would really recommend using Canva. It's such an easy, the word is interface, but you know, the layout of it and everything, I feel it's quite intuitive, that you don't need to spend hours and hours learning it. Once you've worked out what the, like, where to find things, I have a course on that if you've not already done the training. But basically, once you've found everything, it's easy to use. It's not like using something like Photoshop or one of the other ones where you need to learn about layering and things like that. It's very much like the old school sort of Paint or whatever, where you can just stick a square here and a picture on top, and it doesn't take a huge amount of learning to understand how to use it. It's very much click and drag and things like that. So Canva is my go-to for if you need to create anything imagery wise. Go to Canva and set up a Canva account. So you can do that for free. If you are, this is a plug right now, but if you are signing up for the Canva Pro, you get 30 days free trial, I believe it is. Something like that anyway. And I have a training which you can sign up for to get the most out of your Canva Pro trial, because even if you're signing up for the free account, they'll offer you Pro for the 30 days. And so while you've got that, I absolutely recommend setting up your brand kit and getting ready to go with all of that. So that is on my website, and I'll put the link in the show notes if you're interested in that. So far, you've got your email address, which has cost you a little bit of money, and Canva for free. Now, the next thing I recommend is you're going to want to have online storage for sharing your freebie. So I've just told you about a course that you can buy, but let's say that was my freebie and I've told you to go and sign up, or have asked you or suggested that you go sign up. Then when you've given me your email address, I then need to give you the download, whether it's a PDF, which a document, or whether it's a little video, whatever. But I need somewhere to store that. So if it's a video you're sharing, I recommend YouTube. You can set a YouTube business account up for free, and then you can have unlisted videos where the videos are stored on YouTube, and that doesn't cost you any money, which is a miracle. And then you can share the link to the unlisted video. Or if it's a document, I recommend, personally I like Google, I'm a Google fan. You can also use things like Dropbox. Now there may be a cost involved in them depending on how much you already have stored. So for example, I use Google all the time. I have so many Google Sheets, for example. I pay the exorbitant cost of £1.49 or something a month. It's hardly anything. And that's to maintain my storage because I have so much on there. So it could be free if you don't have too much on there. Otherwise, it's just like £1.50 basically. And the next thing is social media. You're going to want to think about what are your, not just what you enjoy the most, but where you think your ideal customer will be. So, for example, my ideal customers are probably mostly on Facebook, so I'm going to want to be on there, and they might also be on LinkedIn, so I want to be in there, and so these are the places where I'm going to want to set up social media accounts. Now you can just go ahead and claim the social media accounts for everything. So for example, for all or something, I might want to go onto Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, which is not technically social media, it's a visual search engine. What else? TikTok, X, Threads, and LinkedIn. You could go into all of these things and claim your account. But that's a lot to start out with. So I recommend, even if you do go and claim all those accounts, don't commit to posting on them and being active in them. It's too much for anybody to maintain. So I recommend claiming the two that you think your customers will be on, but also that you'll enjoy using, and start with them. And you can always add more on once you go. And it's not a bad thing to claim your name on the other accounts, but don't commit to using them all the time, because that's super stressful. And of course, remember that if you set up a Facebook business page, you can cross post to a Instagram business page. So you can set that up in Meta so that your post, only you just go in and post it, and then they share it on both the places for you. So that halves your time for posting there. So that's great. The next thing to consider is, do you need an online shop? Now, if you're starting out, things like Shopify and WooCommerce and a shop on your Wix website, for example, they're going to cost you money. Whereas if you start with something like Etsy, it does cost you money, but it only costs you a listing fee after you'll be able to get something like 40 free listings if you sign up using a friend's link, which you have to do first. You can't add the code after. I learned that the hard way. Don't start setting it up and then think you can put the code in. You have to start with the code and use the code to set up from the very beginning. I made that mistake, so I never got any free listings, but I think it's 40 free listings that you usually get. And after that, you then start paying, but it's not a huge amount of money. I cannot remember, but it's something like 20 pence a listing for however long, and I would have to look that up. And then you pay a percentage of the sales fee. Now, of course, they are costs that you need to budget into your pricing when you're pricing your item. However, I feel like they're costs that are worthwhile. Apart from that listing fee, you're not actually out of pocket unless you sell, if that makes sense. So there's that small listing fee that's a reoccurring fee. So you'd need to look into that and find out how much that is. But basically, you're not paying £15 a month to maintain Etsy. You're only paying once you sell. Now, if it's been a while since you've sold something, it can feel like the Etsy fees are huge. But that's because when you sell that product, they take all those listing fees out of that first sale. So that's something to be aware of, that it can feel like your first sale is not brought you in as much money as you might like if it's been a while since you set the account up and those fees have racked up. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. Etsy is a whole other training, but obviously Etsy is probably where I would suggest starting, because you can sell both physical and digital products on there. And that way your costs are minimal, as opposed to setting up a Shopify store, for example, where you would either need to learn, so that's your time cost, how to set up the Shopify, or pay someone to set it up, and then there's an ongoing fee every month to have a Shopify store. So I would say starting out on Etsy is probably a good way to go, but you of course can then build in these shops as you go once you've got more income coming in. Now, a podcast, that is my next thing I would recommend. In terms of marketing, it's the top of funnel for my marketing. I do a podcast, and then I create blog posts, and I create pins from the blog posts, and I create social media posts from there too. So a podcast, whilst you are investing time, and you will have to pay some money for essentially the hosting for the podcast, you can think of that as a marketing cost. So I'm not suggesting starting a podcast on day one. However, if you're already up and running, I would suggest considering having a podcast as part of your marketing strategy. And if you've got the money to pay for the reoccurring hosting charge for the podcast, then that's something I would recommend having is a podcast for your business. Because like I say, it's kind of top of funnel for marketing, and then that feeds down into your other social media, for example. Now, membership. If you're running a membership, there are ways to do it for as cheap as possible. For example, have a Facebook group. You could also do what I'm currently doing just now, where I'm having a distraction-free membership where I email and we have a couple of Zoom calls a month. That way, you've not got Facebook pings happening. You've not got to go on Facebook and get distracted and doom scroll, and you're just getting, the emails and keeping accountability through the emails. But of course, Facebook is free. And then there's other options which are paid options like Heartbeat or Circle, and there's various other ones as well, but then they're a cost. So that's, if you love those platforms, you might want to invest in that. But there's definitely free ways to do it as well. And then, of course, you need to have a way to accept payments. So in terms of payments, you can accept payments through Stripe or PayPal, and they don't have a monthly cost. Again, like, it's not a reoccurring cost, but they take a percentage every time you make a sale. That's another good way to do it, as long as you have budgeted for those costs in your sales, in your price for your products. Then it's a really good way to do it. There of course are other ways to take money. You could use something like Thrivecart, which still uses PayPal or Stripe, but it then also manages this sales cart. I'm going to circle back now because I've just realised I forgot to mention email. We did talk about getting a professional email address, but we never talked about the email list. So there are several different companies that offer free accounts for starter. For example, MailerLite currently offers 1,000 email addresses for free, so you could collect 1,000 email addresses, and then I can't remember how many emails you can send a month. There is a limit, and that's free. Or, for example, ConvertKit, which is soon going to be just called Kit, they currently have 100 email addresses. They do have this other one that has 1,000 email addresses, but I haven't really investigated that. I think it's called News something, and there's 1,000 email addresses involved in that one. But of course, all of these have limitations, and at some point you're going to need to start paying for that. So from the beginning, it's a good idea to make sure that everybody on your email is a quality lead, as in like people who really want to get to know, like, and trust you so that they can buy from you, and they're not just there for the freebies, which of course you will get, but that's why it's a good idea to clean your email list and remove people who haven't interacted in a while. And the next thing, of course, is you want to be getting organised. You want to have a way to get yourself organised and track things like leads, track things like sales, where sales have come from, how your social media is growing, all of these facts and figures about your business, so you know where to focus your attention to improve it. There are many things. There's Notion, Trello, and of course good old Google Sheets. Now, I love a Google Sheet, as you will find. So I have various methods, but mostly Google Sheets and Google Docs, because that way I can access it wherever I am, on my phone, on my desktop, on my laptop. The information I need is there, and I don't need to have forwarded it to myself or anything like that. So a cloud storage, absolutely recommend that. So something like Trello or Notion, Airtable, these sort of things are good ways to store your information. Now, you could spend a long time trying to choose any of these things that suit you. For example, talking about organization, you could try out Trello, you could try out Notion, you could try out Airtable, you could try out Google Sheets, and you could keep looking and never find the ideal one. So I really recommend just choosing one, giving it a really good go, and then maybe if in 6 months or a year down the line it's really not working for you, then you could consider choosing something different and transferring the data over. However, as with all of these things, like choosing an email provider, choosing even a domain name, all of these things, I recommend, if you're just starting out, go with the free option, go with the cheapest option, and go with the one that appeals to you the most now. And then maybe 6 months, a year, 2 years down the line, you can change it. But there's no point in spending hours and weeks and days and months worrying about whether you've chosen the right product when all of these things offer free trials and different packages where you can choose one that suits you, and most of them are a month-to-month contract where you can cancel at any time. So providing you've chosen something either free or a month-to-month contract where you can cancel when you need to, you're not tied into anything. So those are my recommendations for a tech stack to get you started. So I'm going to look down to check I've not missed anything off my list. So starting off with an email address that's a professional email address matching your domain name. So you want to get the domain name. So I did start off with one that costs money. And then after that, I recommend Canva for all of your creating images for social media, etc. I recommend choosing online storage. You can get free ones like, for example, Google, depending on how much you've got on there. Social media, choosing the two that suit you most and where your customers will be. Online shop, I recommended starting with Etsy because the cost outlay is minimal there. If you're starting a podcast, I recommend thinking of something like, I'm currently using HelloAudio, and they've got I think they call it their basic package. The starter package is reasonable for month to month, and if it's costing too much, you can cancel that as and when you need to. If you're wanting to start a membership, you can start it for free in a Facebook group, or you could get a subscription for something like Heartbeat or Circle. And in terms of taking payment, sign up for both Stripe and PayPal so people have options. And later on, you might want to invest in something like Thrivecart, where you could also hold a membership, although there's not the community aspect within Thrivecart, but that's where you can hold courses. And finally, your organisation, choosing something that works for you, where you can access it wherever you're going to be, and minimal costs. So my favourite, of course, as I said, was Google products. So I reckon you could probably start off with buying your domain and email address, and then setting up everything else for free or very little cost, and start from there. So if you look in the show notes, I'll have a list of these things so you've not had to scribble them down while doing your walk or driving or wherever you listen to your podcast. And so you'll be able to pop in there and grab the list. And yeah, good luck with it. Choose the ones that bring you the most joy, either because they're free or because it's something that I've recommended and you think, well, at least that's somewhere to start. And then further down the line, you can change it. So, get that email address, set up a email account, get collecting emails with a freebie that you've created in Canva and you've chosen to store somewhere like Google, and start getting marketing your business on social media. So, as your business grows, you might need to start paying for more things, but that's a way to start for as cheap as possible. If you were going to pay for one thing other than your email address, I would recommend Canva Pro every time. However, it's up to you where you spend the money in your business or don't spend the money in your business. So don't feel like that's a must. If you're signing up and you want to get the best from your Canva Pro, I do have that course that you can sign up for. That's in my show notes too. So I hope that's given you a little bit insight into some of the tech that I use. And in the next episode, I'm going to talk more about work-life balance as an entrepreneur. Is it even possible? I'm looking forward to chatting with you again soon. Don't forget to sign up so that you get a notification when I've created a new podcast for you. And of course, remember, everything in tech is fixable. Did you try turning it off and on again?